Hey there, welcome to the latest episode of Hiker Homily. And I wanted to just touch base on it's a sort of it's definitely an outdoors topic, not necessarily a backpacking topic or a hiking topic, but it can be because it deals with our national parks. And recently there was a report put out by this group that has really stirred up people, especially on the online hiking community, um, where this report suggested certain changes to the National Park Service, how things the actual national parks are done, and they suggested adding a few things to our national parks that just freaked people out. And once I looked at the situation, kind of objectively as much as I could, because I love our national parks, I really do. Um, I'm trying to figure out why everyone is completely freaked out. um, because it always comes down to I don't know if the word is selfish or rather a little more self centered, because most of the arguments against some of this stuff is I don't go to national parks for that. I don't want, I don't do, I don't, I. A lot of it is, this particular person. Now, the individual is, they don't want a national park that does such and such. Okay, but why? What is it going to do for your experience if you are a hiker or a backpacker? All right, so one of the main things that's really got everyone up in arms is Wi-Fi in our national parks. Oh my gosh, everyone just freaked the F out. Wi-Fi, how dare they even suggest that? I don't go to our national parks to get online. I don't go to this, I don't go to that to use my phone and get on the internet, blah, blah, blah. And you know what? That's cool. If the national parks introduce Wi-Fi, no one is going to hold a gun pointed at you and say you have to use it. For one thing. Oh, but then we're going to have the people, blah, blah, blah. Okay, now bear in mind that the people who are complaining about this are mostly folks who claim to be hikers and backpackers. And here's the thing. The proposed changes for the national parks, we're not talking about taking a portable Wi-Fi unit and nailing it to a tree 50 miles out into the backcountry of Yosemite. What they're talking about is the car campgrounds. The national parks that have campgrounds in them, they're talking about having a wireless Wi-Fi signal in those camp areas. That's what they're talking about. But people hear the words Wi-Fi national parks. Ah, they do. I mean, literally online, people are freaking out. They're swearing. They're making threats and anybody who does that, blah blah blah. What is your problem? If I'm going to Yosemite to backpack, the campgrounds in the main little valley there having Wi-Fi is not going to affect me or my backpacking experience even a little tiny bit. Not a bit. And I have to be honest, even if I were going there to camp and visit the national parks, I don't care if there's Wi-Fi. Now, if I'm the type of person that, I'm at a national park, I want to look around and see the national park, I'm not going to have my face on my phone all the time, cool. The fact that somebody else is there and they do want to use the Wi-Fi and instead of looking around, again, that doesn't hurt me. Do I personally think that's taking away from their experience? Sure, but that's their experience. It doesn't affect mine at all, except for the fact that I give them that power by getting all ruffled. Oh, that person's on their phone. Now my trip is ruined. What? But that's the way some of these folks are acting. That if they see other people looking at their phone on Wi-Fi, their whole trip is going to be ruined. It's like, what are you talking about? Your trip is your trip, and how it goes is mostly up to you. If you let that ruin your trip, that's on you. That's not, the person looking at their phone has nothing to do with that. That's your own issue right there. That you see someone standing in the middle of Yosemite Valley in the campground looking at their phone because they're on the internet, on Wi-Fi, and that is enough to ruin your trip. That's your issue. That isn't the Wi-Fi issue or the person. You know what I mean? And it just seems that way, because that's what everyone, the other thing they're talking about is something that many parks do, a lot of state parks do it and stuff like that, is, they were talking about food trucks. And really, if you read the suggestion, and by the way, that's the thing too, is this was a report done by a kind of like committee or group that was put together. And so they were there to study, hey, here's some things. And yeah, it looks like if you tried this might help the National Park Service bring more folks into the parks and into the gate. Especially certain generations, they're going to want this, they're going to want that. So that's, you might want to try this. There's suggestions. There's nothing at all indicated so far that the National Park Service or the Department of the Interior, who runs the Park Service, are actually going to take any of those suggestions to heart and actually do any of them. Any of them. And quite a few of the suggestions actually were pretty good suggestions. And it included things like getting more funding for them to build more housing for their rangers and their staff. And I know that's a big issue with the National Park Service and things like that. So, there were some good suggestions in there too. But the ones that everybody latched on is where it talks about contractor or outside food sources, and everyone assumed that meant food trucks. Okay, and even if it does, again, we're not talking about, you're not going to have a food truck driving to the top of Half Dome in Yosemite. It's going to be down in the valley, and where you've already got cabins and you've got, buildings and stuff like that, that there's going to be a place where a food truck can park and you can walk up to it and get a meal. How is that going to ruin an experience in Yosemite? I just don't think it will. Especially since we live in a day and age where I'm going to tell you, some of those food trucks are pretty good. They have good food. As long as they're, kept clean and all that kind of stuff, they're a viable way to serve food to people. And the big one, like I said, is the Wi-Fi. And I think it's partly misunderstanding, and it's just people just want to be pissed off about things. And they want to be able to tell other people what to do in certain places. That because if they set foot in a national park, as far as they're concerned, that's an internet-free zone. They don't want to look at the internet all day long if they're in a national park, and that's fine. They can definitely do that, but apparently that also means everybody else on the planet has to feel that same way. And that's where we start getting into things. When you start wanting things done in a certain way by everybody, that is typically where you start to get your head bumped on things, and you're going to get pushback from people because you just can't do that. Now, I'm not talking about laws. I'm not talking about rules that make common sense. I'm talking about stuff like this. It's the old hike your own hike bullcrap, where it's like, yeah, but this is almost going the other direction. The same people that scream hike your own hike when some person wants to go out in the middle of a snow drop, 5 feet of snow, but I don't have any snow gear, but man, I really want to hike. You're going to have people hike your own hike, man. Just do it. Just do it, boy. Yeah. Okay? Those same people are the ones having a complete conniption fit that other people want to camp their own camp and have Wi-Fi while they're in a camp at a national park. Absolutely not. It's a national park. There's no Wi-Fi there. That'll completely ruin the experience. Well, no, it won't. Because if they want it there while they're camping, that will enhance their experience. Now, if you don't want it, then you keep your phone in your pocket or don't carry one and don't use the Wi-Fi. Hey, problem solved. Your experience is saved. But again, like I said, if your experience is ruined because you see someone else in the campground using Wi-Fi or something, that's your issue. Again, that's your problem. That is not anything to do with the Wi-Fi, anything to do with the person using the Wi-Fi. If it's away in a campground and stuff like that, that's you having an issue, and you need to get over it. So really, there are people out there just freaking out. And there's some people who were a little level-headed. Yeah, I don't see the need, but I understand the younger generation. They want that kind of access and blah, blah, blah. And I've been camping with young people before. And I mean, aside from a Boy Scout, when we're on a Boy Scout troop, all phones are, that's our troop rule, is no phones. When we have a Boy Scout meeting at our local meeting place in town where there is Wi-Fi, That is part of the rule. Is as soon as we call the meeting to order and do the flag salute, phones stay in the pocket. They don't come out until we are done and everything is put away. So for that hour and a half of a meeting, no phones. And we would do the same thing if we were camping as a group. Now, when the kids go to bed at night in their tent, they want to get out their phone and do whatever. We're not going to, be enforcing it on this rigid thing. But while we're actually in camp doing Boy Scout stuff, nope. But I have been camping in a non-Boy Scout atmosphere where we don't have a rank structure and purposes and things that are going on. Just family camping and things like that. And it wouldn't hurt a bit if some of the younger folks had some internet access and they wanted to get on their phone when we were relaxing. I know my family well enough to know that it's not going to change anything. When it's time to go on a hike, they're going to get up and they're going to go on a hike with us. They're not going to I'm going to stay here because I have Wi-Fi. No, they would get up and they would go. They're going to go kayaking with us on the lake and things because I just know my family. Now, if you other folks are scared of that and you're freaking out because you know that people around you, your family, aren't going to want to do things with you anymore because they've got Wi-Fi. Well, again, that's not the problem in the National Park Service. That's your issue with your family and your friends. You can't blame them because they provided Wi-Fi, and now that means your friends won't put it down and they won't go with you to do fun stuff like hiking and kayaking. That's their issue. Just having the Wi-Fi there, put the blame where it belongs. So anyway, that's my little rant on that for this issue of Hiker Homily. Agree, disagree, again, respectfully. Just leave some comments if you wish and things like that. As always, down below or at hikingforhealthca@gmail.com or on Instagram. And yeah, that's just really my take on it. It's not the end of the world if the National Park Service, the Department of the Interior, takes some of those suggestions to heart, and one of them is putting Wi-Fi in the campgrounds. It's not the end of the world. I don't see a problem with that. And it isn't going to affect my trip to a national park in any way, shape, or form. It just isn't. I'm not going to let that bug me. And the fact that it bothers other people, wow, just what are you going to do? That's it for today. Hey, thanks for watching. As always, appreciate it. Thank you very much, and we're going to see you next time.